Put the trowel down for 60 seconds and read this, because if you own a garden bed, a raised box, 3 buckets on a balcony, or 1 container by a sunny window, the next few minutes are worth more than every seed packet you bought this spring. It is July, and right now, across the country, thousands of gardeners are quietly making the single most expensive decision in home gardening Euro. They are deciding to stop planting. The tomatoes are staked. The squash is sprawling. The spring peas came out weeks ago, and the bed where they lived is sitting there, bare, baking, doing absolutely nothing. In the back of their mind, those gardeners have already closed the season and set their next planting date for April. Here is what nobody told them. Your soil is warmer today than it will be on any other day of the entire year, and warm soil is a germination engine. A carrot seed that sulked in cold April ground for 2 full weeks will crack open in 6 days right now. A bean that limped out of spring soil comes up in less than a week. You are not late. You are standing in the fastest germination window of the year and treating it like the end of the season. Number 2 on this list goes from a seed in your hand to leaves on your plate in about 3 weeks. You will be eating it before the month turns over. And number 15 is not a suggestion, it is a deadline. Plant it this week and you will cut it fresh from your own backyard in November. Wait 2 weeks and it will run out of season and give you nothing, no matter how well you care for it. 15 vegetables, 1 window. Let's go through every single one. Number 1, radishes. Almost everybody who says they hate radishes has only eaten a bad one hollow in the middle, hot enough to burn, spongy instead of crisp. That is not the vegetable. That is bad timing. Radishes read 2 signals at once, heat and long days, and when both are high, the plant panics and rushes to flower instead of swelling its root. That is bolting, and it is exactly what happens to a radish maturing in the peak of summer. So flip the calendar on it. Sow in the back half of July, from roughly the 20th onward, and your roots do their real growing in late August and September, as the days shorten and the nights cool. Sow a 1/4 inch deep, thin to 2 inches apart, and thin ruthlessly. Crowded radishes make leaves, not roots. Cherry Bell gives you round, red, cold crisp roots in 22 to 28 days, and French Breakfast gives you those slim, blush-and white ones that snap when you bite them. Pull them the day they hit size, 48 hours late, and the texture goes pithy. Eat them raw with butter and flaky salt, and you will understand why chefs put a bowl of them on the table before dinner. Now, if 22 days sounds fast, the next one is faster. Number 2, arugula. Store arugula is a lie of a vegetable. Those peppery, volatile compounds start breaking down within a day or 2 of cutting, so what lands in the plastic clamshell is a tired, flat green with a bitter edge and none of the nutty brightness it is supposed to have. Grown at home, it is a different food entirely. Arugula also loves the exact trick that makes July planting work. Sow it thickly in a shallow band. Water it in the evening instead of the middle of the day, and it will be up in 4 to 6 days in warm soil. Here is the management habit that decides everything. Harvest small. At 21 to 25 days, when the leaves are 2 to 3 inches, they are mild, clean, and nutty. Let them run to full size, and they turn aggressive and bitter enough to bully every other flavor on the plate. Cut with scissors an inch above the crown and leave the roots new leaves. Push back in 10 to 12 days. Astro is the variety to look for in heat. It is faster and slower to bolt than standard rocket. Sow a fresh short row every 2 weeks, and you have salad from August through the first hard freeze. Speaking of things that regrow after cutting, the next one gives you 2, sometimes 3 harvests from a single sowing. Number 3, scallions. Most gardening advice ignores scallions because they are not glamorous, and that is a mistake, because pound for pound, they may be the highest value thing in a small garden. They ask for a strip of soil 6 inches wide. That is it. Push the seed a 1/4 inch into warm July ground, and you will see grass-thin sprouts in 7 to 10 days, with full harvest size at around 60 days and baby scallions long before that. Now, the part almost everyone gets wrong. Do not pull the plant. Take scissors and snip the green tops about an inch above the soil line. You leave the base and the roots completely undisturbed, and fresh tops regrow in 10 to 14 days. 1 July sowing realistically gives you 2 full cuttings, and often a third if fall stays mild. Evergreen hardy white is the one to plant now. It shrugs off cold and will stand in the ground well past your first frosts. Snipped fresh over eggs, folded into fried rice, scattered on grilled meat 5 minutes after they left the soil, they taste sharp and green in a way the rubber-banded bunch at the store simply does not. Now let's talk about a crop most people only ever plant once a year and lose half their harvest because of it. Number 4. Bush beans. Almost every gardener plants beans in May, picks hard through June, watches the plants slow down, and concludes that beans are finished. Beans are not finished. That one planting is finished. Bush beans are a sprint crop sep. They set a heavy flush, then taper off, and the fix is simply to start another sprint. In July soil, seed germinates in 6 to 8 days, instead of the sulky 2 weeks a cold spring sowing takes, and you are picking in 50 to 55 days, which puts fresh beans on your table in September, when cool nights make the pods noticeably sweeter and more tender than anything summer produced. One thing matters more than everything else for July germination. That seed cannot dry out before it sprouts. On a 95-degree afternoon, the top inch of soil can go bone dry within hours of watering. Lay a thin scatter of straw over the seeded row to hold that surface moisture. Check it once a day, and pull the straw back the moment the seedlings arch through. Provider is the most reliable germinator in warm soil, and Contender handles heat while staying stringless. Pick every other day at pencil thickness euro. The more you pick, the more the plant sets. The next one on this list is a crop most people give up on by mid-July, which is precisely the wrong response. Number 5. Cucumbers. Look at your cucumber plants right now. Powdery mildew has probably dusted the older leaves gray-white. The vines look ragged, and production has dropped to a cucumber every few days. Most people accept that and wait for next year. Instead, plant a brand new round today. Cucumber seed germinates in 4 to 6 days in July soil A. No spring sowing comes close, and most varieties run 55 to 65 days to harvest. So a plant that goes in now hits full production in September, after August heat breaks, when disease pressure has dropped and the fruit is crisper and less bitter than anything the summer crop made. Do one thing differently with this planting. Grow them vertically. Bamboo tripod, cattle panel, a length of fence, anything that lifts the vines. Sprawling vines sit in dead, humid air, right at soil level, and that is exactly the environment powdery mildew wants. Trellised vines get airflow around every leaf. The fruit hangs straight and visible, so you pick it at the right size instead of finding a bitter yellow club under a leaf next week, and you harvest standing up. Market More 76 carries real disease resistance, and Suyo Long stays sweet and non-bitter even under stress. Now, the next one has a pest problem that a July planting solves by pure timing. Number 6. Summer squash. If your zucchini has ever wilted overnight and collapsed for no visible reason, you did not have a disease. You had a squash vine borer. The moth lays eggs at the base of the stem in late spring. The larvae tunnel into the vine from the inside, and the plant dies from the inside out, while the leaves still look green. Here is the timing that beats it. Across most northern and midwestern regions, roughly zones 5 through 7, That primary egg-laying flight is finishing by late June and early July. A squash plant seeded now comes up after the moths have largely moved on, so by the time your stems are thick enough to be worth attacking, the threat has passed. Seed germinates in 4 to 7 days in warm ground, and first fruit shows at 45 to 55 days. In Zone 8 and warmer, you can get a second borer generation, so float a row cover over the young plants for the first 3 weeks. Then pull it off once flowering starts so the bees can work. Raven is a compact, heavy-yielding dark zucchini, and yellow crookneck brings that nutty, old-fashioned flavor. Harvest at 6 to 8 inches every single day if you can. Every fruit you cut tells the plant to set 2 more, and every fruit you let turn into a baseball bat shuts production down. The next one is the green that most Americans have never grown and immediately wish they had. Number 7. Bok choy. Bok choy is treated as a spring crop, and it should not be, because it is genuinely one of the best late summer sowings there is. Its real enemy is not heat. It is a cold snap early in life. A young plant that gets chilled for several days reads that as a completed winter and bolts straight to flower. Sowing in July skips that trap entirely because the plant does all its early growing in warmth and matures into the cooling days of September. Sow a 1/4 inch deep thin baby types to 4 inches and full-size types to 8 to 10, and give it a spot that catches afternoon shade if your area still runs hot. Toy choy gives you those perfect single-serving baby heads in about 30 days, and joy choy is the full-size, thick white-stemmed workhorse at 45 to 50 days with real bolt resistance. Harvest either the whole head with a knife at the soil line, or take outer stalks one at a time and let the center keep growing. Split a head lengthwise, sear the cut face in a hot pan, and you get sweet, crunchy stems and silky leaves in the same 3 minutes. Now for a crop everybody assumes is impossible in summer, and it is not, if you understand what actually stops it. Number 8. Lettuce. Lettuce quits in summer for 2 separate reasons, and if you only fix one of them, you will fail. The first is bolting. Once air temperatures sit above the low 80s, most varieties switch from making leaves to making a seed stalk, and the leaves fill with bitter latex. The second is thermodormancy, which simply means lettuce seed refuses to wake up when soil is too warm, above roughly 80 degrees. Germination collapses. So fix both. Sow in the late evening when soil has cooled, water immediately, and place the row where something taller throws afternoon shade, behind the tomatoes, on the east side of a trellis, under a fence line. Shaded soil can run 10 to 15 degrees cooler than soil in open sun, and that gap is often the whole difference. Choose bred for heat types. Jericho, developed for Israeli summer conditions, and Nevada, a Batavian that holds sweet far longer than the soft butterheads. Harvest outer leaves only, working from the outside in, and one plant feeds you for weeks instead of once. The next one does all of this without any of the fuss. Number 9. Swiss chard. While the spinach bolts and the lettuce turns bitter and half your greens surrender in August, chard just keeps going. It is one of very few leafy crops that tolerates real summer heat and then walks right through the first light frosts of fall without flinching, which means it bridges the entire gap between 2 seasons on a single sowing. Chard seed is a cluster, not a single seed, so several seedlings come up in one spot, thin, to one strong plant every 8 to 10 inches, or you get a crowded, mildewy tangle. Here is the thing nobody tells you until you grow it yourself. The leaf and the stem are 2 different ingredients. Chop the stems out, start them in the pan first for 4 or 5 minutes. Then throw the leaves in at the end and they wilt in under 2. 1 harvest, 2 textures. Ford Hook Giant is the heavy-producing dark green standard, and Bright Lights gives you neon stems in red, gold, orange, and pink that make a summer bed look designed rather than planted. Cut outer leaves at the base, never the center crown, and one plant produces into November. Now for the green that thrives in the exact heat that kills everything else on this list. Number 10. Malabar spinach. True spinach cannot survive a July sowing. Heat plus long days sends it to flower within days of germinating, which is why most gardeners write off summer greens completely. Malabar spinach, Bacella alba, is not spinach at all. It is a vining tropical that gets stronger the hotter it gets. Thick, glossy, succulent leaves, mild flavor, and it cooks exactly like spinach, in soup, in stir-fry, folded into eggs. The seed coat is hard, so do two things. Nick each seed lightly with a nail file and soak overnight before sowing. Skip that, and you wait 3 weeks. Do it, and you see sprouts in about 10 days. Give it a trellis, because it climbs 6 to 8 feet and will happily colonize whatever it can reach. Red stem is the ornamental one, deep magenta vines that honestly belong on a patio wall. Harvest by pinching the tender growing tips 4 to 6 inches at a time, because every pinch forces 2 new branches, and the plant gets bushier and more productive the harder you pick it. One thing to know for the kitchen: the leaves are slightly mucilaginous, which makes them fantastic for thickening soups and less ideal raw in a bowl of salad. Now let's go underground, because the next 3 roots are all sweeter when they mature in the cold. Number 11. Beets. If your only experience of beets is the canned kind A, soft, uniform, faintly metallic, you have not eaten a beet. One pulled fresh, roasted the same afternoon, is dense and earthy and genuinely sweet, and July is the right time to start one. Beets sown now take 50 to 60 days, which lands your harvest in late September and October, when cool nights push the roots to convert stored starch into sugar. That conversion is the plant's own antifreeze response. It loads its cells with sugar so they do not freeze, and you get to taste the result. Sow 1/2 inch deep and thin to 3 inches. And yes, you must thin, because each beet seed is a cluster of several. The harvest window is narrower than people expect. Pull when the shoulder of the root showing at the soil surface is 2 to 3 inches across. Past that, it goes woody, and the sweetness fades. Detroit Dark Red is the dependable classic, and Chioggia cuts open in concentric pink and white rings that look like they were printed. And do not throw away the tops. Young beet greens cook exactly like chard, because botanically, that is essentially what they are. The next root gives you 2 vegetables from 1 packet. Number 12. Turnips. Turnips have a reputation problem in this country, and it comes down to one thing. Almost everyone has only eaten an old, oversized one, which is starchy, fibrous, and sharp enough to be unpleasant. Pull one at golf ball size, about 2 inches across, and it is a completely different food. Crisp, mild, faintly sweet, closer to a radish than to anything you are picturing. Sow now, thin to 4 inches, and roots are ready in 40 to 50 days. Then there is the bonus most people miss entirely. The greens are edible from about day 30, 2 to 3 weeks before the roots finish, and they cook like mustard greens, tender with a light pepper. That is 2 separate vegetables from 1 sowing. Hakare, the Japanese salad turnip, has converted more turnip skeptics than any other variety sold today. Smooth, white, sweet enough to eat raw in slices, and purple top white globe is the reliable storage type if you want them for roasting. Pull on time and roast them whole with a little butter until they caramelize at the edges. Now, the next one is the crop gardeners most often fail at in July, and the fix costs nothing. Number 13. Carrots. Carrots are the number 1 July frustration, and the reason is almost always the same. The seed is tiny, it sits in the top 1/4 inch of soil, and in July, that 1/4 inch dries out completely within hours of watering. The seed starts to swell, dries out, and dies. You see nothing come up, assume you did something wrong. Reseed and get the same result. Here is the fix, and it is free. After sowing, lay a length of burlap, a board, or even a piece of cardboard flat over the seeded row. It holds moisture in that critical surface layer through the heat of the day. Water right over the top of it, lift a corner every morning to check, and the moment you see the first thread-thin green sprouts, take the cover off immediately so they get full light. Choose shorter, stockier types for summer sowing. Danvers 126 and Nantes push through ordinary garden soil without needing perfectly loose, deep ground, and Napoli is the fast one at around 58 days. Then leave them in as long as you can, because carrots that mature through cold weather run the same starch-to-sugar conversion the beets do, and October carrots taste like a different vegetable than August ones. Speaking of frost making food better, the next two are the reason your garden should still be feeding you in November. Number 14. Kale. Kale is filed away as a spring crop by most people, and the gardeners who plant it in July and leave it standing through the first frosts of autumn are eating something the spring crowd never taste. When temperatures drop toward freezing, kale pulls the same trick. It converts stored starch into sugar, so its cells survive the cold, and the leaves that come off the plant after a frost are noticeably sweeter, more tender, and far less mineral bitter than anything it made in summer. This is exactly why farmers market vendors sell out of it in October, and why restaurant menus start listing it in fall. Sow now at 55 to 60 days to harvest. Space plants 18 inches apart because they get big, and expect the plant to hit its stride just as everything else in the garden is winding down. One warning for a July planting: cabbage worms are active, so drape a lightweight row cover over the young plants for the first few weeks, and they will never find them. Lacinato, the dark blistered Italian type also sold as dinosaur kale, and red Russian, which turns purple in cold, are the two that reward a fall harvest best. Take the lower outer leaves and never the growing point at the center, and one plant feeds you into December in mild zones. And now, the one this whole list has been building toward. Number 15. Brussels sprouts. This is the deadline. Brussels sprouts need 90 to 100 days from transplant to reach harvest, which means the plant you set out this week is one you cut in late October and November, and a plant you start in mid-August simply runs out of calendar and gives you loose leafy nubs instead of sprouts. There is no technique that buys back the time. In zones 3 through 6, the upper Midwest, New England, the mountain states, start seed now and transplant in 2 to 3 weeks, watering consistently through establishment so the July heat does not check their growth. In zone 7 and warmer, you can direct sow. Space them 24 inches apart in firm ground, because a loose planted sprout plant rocks in autumn wind, and rocking roots make loose sprouts. Then use the one technique that separates a good stalk from a great one. About 3 to 4 weeks before your intended harvest, pinch out the growing tip at the very top of the plant. That is called topping, and it stops the plant from stretching upward and pushes everything it has into sizing up the sprouts already on the stalk, so they finish evenly instead of small at the top and blown open at the bottom. Long Island Improved is the proven open-pollinated standard, and Hestia is a tidy, upright hybrid that holds well. And the payoff is real, because the cold-triggered starch-to-sugar conversion is more dramatic in Brussels sprouts than in almost any other vegetable. A sprout cut off the stalk after a November frost is sweet and nutty and has nothing in common with the ones that were harvested weeks ago and shipped cold. This Thanksgiving, everybody else opens a freezer bag. You walk out the back door with a knife and cut a whole stalk you planted in July. 15 vegetables and 15 reasons your garden is not finished until the ground freezes. Your soil will never be faster than it is this week, and every seed you do not put in now is a harvest that quietly disappears, not because you failed at anything, but because you stopped in July like most people do. Do not try to plant all 15. Pick one. Get it in the ground today, before the light goes,